The November 7th, 2024 working meeting of the Lincoln County Board of Education will come to order. Let's stand for the pledge. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Our vision statement. The vision of Lincoln County Schools is to empower every student with the knowledge and skills necessary to become college, career, and citizenship ready by providing high-quality education and enriching opportunities in every classroom every day. Our mission statement. Every student, every classroom, every day, college, career, and citizenship ready. Our saying of the evening is, if we could spread love as quickly as we spread hate and negativity, what a wonderful world this would be. And that's from Snoopy. I love Snoopy. Is there a motion to set the agenda?
Make a motion.
Christine,
Second.
Tyler, Bo, Gloria,
Yes.
Jen,
Yes.
Tyler,
Yes.
Christine,
Yes.
and yes for me. Okay, we'll move down to item 3, recognition and presentations, and we will turn it over to Diana Hart.
And I'm going to turn it over to our special guest, Ms. Thelma Blair.
I want to thank everybody for letting me come today. Thank you, members of the board. I represent Lincoln County Farm Bureau Federation Women's Committee. It's a long thing, but what we do is our major thing that we do is trying to encourage students, young students, and across the board to know more about agriculture. We are a farming community. We are a local farming county, but yet a lot of kids do not grow up on farms and they do not know where their food comes from. And so that's one of our main goals. We've done several things in the schools, and one of the things that we did this year is we had coloring books made up about information about farms in Lincoln County and gave it to all second grade students. And I want to share that with all of you. The facts came from the extension office, and then we put this together with an organization called Teach Kentucky Ag, which some of you are familiar with that we use. Then at the culmination of giving that to the students where they could color it for a month, they were given a sheet of paper in the second grade that looked like this with the facts that are on the back summarized, and that we had a coloring contest. So what I'm here tonight to do is to recognize the students that won that contest. Okay, so we have the local winners. The school winner, first of all, is Skylar Brown from Stanford. Is Skylar here?
Skylar is out sick.
Okay. I'll give it to you to give to.
Yes.
We gave each one of the school winners $25. So they're coloring a sheet of paper, so that's not bad. Okay, Leah Isaacs, Crab Orchard. Yeah, okay. That's good. Thank you. I've got a phone over there. Would you take a picture from my phone?
I'll get some after we're finished.
Okay.
With the board.
Then from Waynesburg, Cora May.
She just texted, she's at the 150 light, so she's a little.
Okay, we'll give it to her and just I'll call her name again. All right, no problem. And then from Houstonville, Willa, you have to help me with
Dominiani.
Dominiani. Congratulations, school winners. So. Thank you very much for doing that. Okay, then we also decided that we would have the district winner. So, thanks to, Ms. Hart, she helped me with judging which one of the students from the school winners would be a winner from the district. But we decided there were a couple that were really good. Could we show the pictures?
Sure.
That
So
they could hold
you
them
want
and
to hold that up. And this one is yours. And this
oh, that's
is,
so everybody can see it. You did such a great job.
this is Stanford. And then Waynesburg. This is Waynesburg.
So we decided that because there were some really good ones here, that we'd do a runner-up as well. Now, of course, they got for their school, but we wanted to do a little bit of something for the runner-up. So we're going to announce the runner-up is Cora May is the runner-up.
And she is on her way.
Right.
Yeah.
So we'll have her come up when she gets here. And now we're going to announce the district, and the runner-up also got another $25. So for covering that sheet of paper, they got $50. So that's not bad. So then we have the winner, and we decided that the winner would get $50. And so the winner is, help me again, Willa.
Dominion.
Okay, Dominion. So you are just good. That's pretty good. And I wanted to thank all the teachers that helped with this and the schools, because we couldn't do it without you. And so we wanted to give $50 for the teacher of the winner. So Brittany Wood is the teacher. Is she here?
She's not, Miss Dominion is going to accept it.
All right.
She's a great teacher.
So she gets $50 as well. So
Here's one of the coloring contests with this teacher, if you want to come on up and join them.
okay, good deal.
Here she
And
is.
here comes Cora. And here comes Cora. All right. Just in time.
Here is your beautiful, and you were the winner of your school and the second place winner of it all.
You didn't even know we were going to do that. So congratulations. Thank you again very much.
Thank you.
Tell me you want to go in.
What?
No, no,
Back
we'll
up,
get
get
the
pictures like that.
Go back.
Okay, we'll go on with 3A, 2024 KSA district data and needs assessment presentation, Chad Davis.
Good evening. This year we decided to let each school present their own individual data, so I'm just going to give you an overview of the district's state assessment data, and then I'm going to do a needs assessment. I'll talk about that in just a few minutes. So this data is district-wide averages. So when you look at this, you'll see our elementary overall scores averaged together is a 63.6, which is considered a yellow score. That's, you know, based on cut scores that the state sets. Our middle school overall score is a 47.6, which is orange. And our high school overall score is a 67.1. All those did increase over the prior year. I'll wait just a second, but the elementary score, of course, you know, that's 5 schools averaged together. So there's a varying range of individual scores were, but you'll get to that when principals do their presentation. So reading and math in the state accountability system, those are averaged together and they are weighted. So our elementary overall reading and math score is a 65.6, and that is green. because of the growth that were made in some schools. The middle school's overall reading and math performance scores of 53.4. Again, yellow, but they did increase in those areas. And high school overall is a 69.3 in reading and math, and that's a green label score as well. Science, social studies, and combined writing. These are areas for growth for us. And I mentioned in the strategic planning committee meeting a week or so ago that they are areas for growth and areas that we're really going to focus on. In elementary schools, the overall science, social studies, combined writing, again, those three subjects are put together for one score. It's a 60.1, which is yellow. Science, social studies, and combined writing for middle school is a 40.5, which is in the orange range. And those subjects in high school is a 38.6, is the indicator average for those. And that's also in orange. Each year, students take the Quality of Safety and Climate School Survey, and that looks at a lot of different factors. But it's an overall picture of how they feel about their school as far as do they feel safe? Do they feel like teachers care about them? Do they feel like they belong? The overall elementary score, and all of our elementaries are pretty close in this, was a 74.2. That was the average. It was rated yellow. And to get to green in that area, we need to get up to a 77. So we're not too far from scoring green. Middle school is a 60.8, which is also yellow. And to get to green, the middle school needs to get to a score of 68 or higher. High school was a 66, and it is labeled green. And I should probably note that the cut scores for each level are different. So, you look at the high school and it's 66, but it's green. Elementary is higher, it's yellow. That's because the cut scores are different for every level of schools. Lincoln County, the post-secondary readiness with high demand. So this is the high school only. You can see pretty much even across the board as far as demographics go and our subgroups. African American, we got these graphs from the Kentucky Association of School Councils. They supply these, they break down all of the data and give us some great graphs that we can use. For whatever reason, African American did not populate, but I was able to pull it from a spreadsheet, and it is 60%. So looking across the board, African American and students with disabilities are two areas we're going to have to focus on for post-secondary readiness. And we've already talked to the high school folks about some ways we can target those groups of kids. Oh, yeah, great. He's over here sleeping. Graduation rate, this is the average of 4-year and 5-year cohorts. With COVID, some students were given the opportunity to do an extra year of school, so that's why the 5-year cohort exists. And when you average the two together, students who graduated in 4 years or 5 years, you can see pretty consistent across the board. Students with disabilities, again, is a little bit lower at 90%, but still the gap there is not as great as it is in some areas. And African American, again, it did not populate when we got these graphs, but African American graduation rate was 100% based on the data I got from the state. So back to our leadership retreat in, I guess that was in July, right before the KSA conference. All of our leadership team, district and school, we identified 3 big rocks for us as a district. And these are the things we need to really focus on and tackle as we go forward in order to be the best district we can be. And honestly, I think the sky's the limit. If you look at our leadership, our teachers, and our students, there's no reason we can't be a really high-performing district. And I think we're on our way there. We're making strides. So our 3 big rocks we identified. The first is quality standards-based instruction driven by continuous data analysis. And that is getting in every classroom every day. We have made it a focus for our administrators, our instructional coaches to be in those classrooms to gather data, to provide support to teachers and coaching to teachers to make sure that the instruction that's going on in classrooms is the best that it can be. And kudos to our principals and coaches. We have challenged them to be in those classrooms. A lot of times that's hard because there's a lot going on in school, but they've done a great job in rising up to that challenge. And I think we're going to reap the benefits of them being in classrooms and just supporting teachers and helping teachers out. Our second big rock was individualized targeted instruction and accommodations for special ed students. In every area across the district, our special ed students perform lower than students as a whole. So obviously we need to put resources in targeting those areas and making sure that those kids have all the opportunities they need to be successful, because special ed student can learn just like any other kid can learn. And we want to have high expectations for them and give them the resources and quality instruction to be successful. Again, we have a lot of things in place this year that we didn't in the past. We're auditing a lot of areas in the special ed department to make sure that the things we're doing are working. And if they're not working, we're going to change them. So, and I think that's the overall thing you'll see if you talk to our principals, our district administrators, teachers, then we're all about continuous improvement. If something's not working, why keep doing it? We're going to get the same result. So if it's broke, we're going to change it and fix it. The last one being culture and climate. In order to have successful schools, we have to have kids that are happy at school and want to be there. We have to have teachers and administrators that are happy at school and want to be there. And so we've done a lot with culture and climate, and the board has done a lot as well as far as incentives, salary raises, and things like that to attract the best talent. And then we're doing everything we can in the schools and as district administrators to try to keep those folks here. So those are our three big rocks. And I'm going to go into the needs assessment in just a second, which there's no slideshow for that, but I think you all have a hard copy, or maybe it's in the KSBA portal. I believe Colleen got that to you. So our needs assessment is closely aligned with the three big rocks. Each school by law does a needs assessment, and the district does a needs assessment each year. And those results are used to guide our CSIPs and our CDIP and our plans going forward. So I'm just going to hit the high points. Like I said, you all have that document, so you have everything that was provided when we did this needs assessment during the principals meeting. So we got the input from all the principals, school administrators, district administrators, and you have the responses there. So the first section is our first big rock, quality standards-based instruction driven by continuous data analysis. Some things that are going well, and I think the first one that I want to talk about is really the reason we're here. And it was labeled green on this, and it's an academic focus in the district. And that's what we're all about, is academics and educating kids. And so I'm proud to say that I feel like most of the folks in this room, well, all the folks in this room have play some part as a stakeholder in helping us achieve our academic success. But we're going to continue to focus on creating the best academic environment we can. And the needs assessment says it's going well, so we have to keep that up. One thing that was labeled in the yellow category, which is needs adjustments, and those things in the yellow category, we have them in place. They are working to some extent, but we got to tweak those. And again, we're always about continuous improvement. So if it needs to be scrapped or tweaked, we need to scrap it or tweak it. And one of those is horizontal and vertical alignment within schools and levels. That is something we have spent a lot of time on starting back last summer, and it's going to continue for the ongoing future. It's something really that you do on a continuous basis, and that's making sure that our curriculum is aligned K through 12, so that there are no gaps in learning, so that if a student goes to 8th grade, they learn in 7th grade what they needed to learn to be prepared. And also making sure that instruction is aligned horizontally. So a third grade student at Houstonville is getting similar or the same instruction as far as quality and resources that a student at Sanford is getting. And we've worked really hard to get our elementary schools in particular aligned. We have a new reading series, we have a new math series. We are working on plans for a new writing series going forward. Science will be coming down the pipe soon. So it's a lot, honestly, for teachers. It's a lot as a district to take on, but it's something we have to do in order, again, to provide the best instruction we can provide. As far as the middle school and high school, again, we're doing PLCs, we're doing department meetings. We're looking at curriculum resources that we can either buy or adopt. And luckily, a lot of those are now open source and free, and they're high quality. So we want to make sure everything we do is high quality. Everything that we're using is high quality. And those are some of the kinds of ways that we're working on this as an area of focus. There's also a red category, and the red is not working. And not working doesn't mean we're going to throw it out necessarily, but it needs some major attention. One thing, and this is nothing new, this has been ongoing for the past few years, is student behavior in the classrooms. And we are fortunate enough to have a ton of resources with behavior coaches, with ARC chair people in our special ed department, with just administrators, instructional coaches, teachers that are well-trained to deal with those issues. And when we look at that as an area of concern, we have to look at what can we do going forward to make sure that we address those as well. Another area that is yellow that we are working on, there's a lot of things in play here and a lot of things in the works, and that's post-secondary readiness work. How are we making our high school kids ready for post-secondary transition, whether that's the workplace, trade school, or four-year university? And we have a lot of dual credit opportunities. We're partnering with VCTCS. We've got to get kids, we have to find out what drives kids, what they want to be, what their goals are, and then we have to provide opportunities to prepare them to reach those goals. And I think there's a lot of work going on there, like I said, with the CTE and, just a lot of things going in play there to make them ready for life after high school. Another thing that was in yellow, and I'll go back to this, is consistency with contents. As I mentioned, we've adopted a lot of curriculum that's going to provide that consistency across the district. So I think that's very important. Something that was green, and we are very blessed to now have a district GT teacher that can focus solely on GT and those students who are high performing, and giving them the resources, the tools, the instruction to continue to push them and advance them and challenge them to be the best that they can be. Second area, again, it was one of our big rocks, is targeted instruction and accommodations for special ed students. We are continually working to make sure that our special ed instruction for those kids is the best it can be. Something that was going well is our behavior interventionists, as I mentioned. They work not only with special ed kids, they work with teachers, they work with any kid in the building that has behavior needs, or any teacher that may need help with classroom management, things like that. So that is a great resource to have. I would stand here and bet that most districts in the state do not have that. So I think we are blessed to have those positions. We also have ARC chair people. Those used to be our EC lead teachers. That showed up in green and yellow. Green, I think, because they are specialists in their area, whether they're an MSD specialized person or maybe specific learning disability, so that they can ensure that our IEPs are written correctly and those students receive the resources that they need, whether it's through a co-teach or a resource setting. Also, ARC chair showed up in yellow. It is a new position, and with that comes a learning curve. So, tweaking those duties and exactly what that looks like to make it the most effective it can be is something that we're working on. And the final area, culture and climate. Honestly, and this makes me very happy. Like I said, there was a section for red, things that we need to throw out. There was nothing in red in culture and climate. So that's very, very good news. Things going well. The first one was focus on competitive staff pay. I know the board has made strides with that in the past few years, and thanks to Leanne Smith for her work and Gina Cooper. So, you know, a lot of times that's what draws them here, and we have to keep them here. Another thing that was rated as green is SROs in every building, and I know our principals appreciate that greatly. Having that extra set of hands, that extra way of looking at situations, an extra resource is a great thing to have. Another area that was rated green is facility improvements and cleanup, and I know there has been a lot done already in our facilities as far as upgrades. You know, even if you look around the boardroom, we've got fresh paint, we've got a new floor, but there are things going on district-wide behind the scenes. Brad Smith works tirelessly to ensure that things are getting done, and I know there are plans going forward facility-wise. You know, we've got the $7 million from the state, and then our bonding capacity is also increased. So I think we're going to see even more great things with facilities. One area that was yellow that we need to tweak is several new positions and how those are going to fit into the overall picture. And again, you know, the new positions, it's a learning curve. You have to figure out exactly how they best fit into the puzzle. And that's something that takes time, but that's something that we constantly analyze and work on. All right. So that's a summary of our needs assessment. Do you have any questions about the data presentation or the needs assessment results?
No.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll continue to the 2024 KSA data presentation, Crab Orchard, Highland, and Houstonville. And we'll start with Mr. Justin Abbott from Crab Orchard.
Thank you. I have our title slide. This is our theme from last year. And if you've worked with me over the course of the past 7 years, each year we have a particular theme that sort of keeps us focused and allows us to really hone in on the vision for what we want to happen for our school and our students. And so last year's theme was Continue to Climb. And just for some historical perspective, you know, coming out of the pandemic, we were 29 out of 29 elementary schools neighboring us. We focused a lot on just helping kids survive through the pandemic and come back to school and what that looked like to return. I'm thankful to say that we've since made up a lot of ground, and so then it was time to push the gas a little harder and climb, and so that's what we did. We did some restructuring prior to the start of school where we allowed for 90-minute blocks for math and reading K through 5. Previously, we did that in the primary, so we integrated that 90-minute block for math and reading in the 4th and 5th grades as well. And that wasn't an easy change. We had to completely remodel our master schedule. And to be honest, not everybody was fully on board with that because we didn't want to slip in other areas. You can't take time and add on to something without taking it away from something else. And so in doing so, our data shows that our overall score is a 62.4. And we really wanted to focus on reading and math. And I talked to staff at the beginning of the year. If we want to make a big jump, the best thing that we can do is make sure our kids are more proficient in reading and math. And that's not to say that science, social studies, and writing isn't important. It's just let's build those foundational skills first, and then the rest will come along as we go. And so our overall reading and math score was a 55.3. That was a 10.2 change. And so I did predict that at the previous data presentation we had last year, I said we expect a double-digit gain in reading and math, and we did it. And I'm so proud of our staff, the hard work that they put in. I'm proud of our students because they believed in what we were telling them. You can do this. And so in order to get that overall indicator rating in reading and math, you take your year score, your change from the previous year, add that together, and we ended up at 65.5. That was rated by KSA as a significant increase. We maintained in science, social studies, and writing, and that was a scare for for us to change from that 90-minute time block, but we did maintain our overall score. We didn't go up a lot, 0.6 of a point, but still maintain that overall average. And then quality of school climate and safety, we went up 0.1 of a point, and we're constantly throughout the year looking at ways that we can help students feel belonging and safe in our school. So these bars just basically show what I just went over. It shows you what we scored, add the overall change, and then you get your overall score. That's just another look at the bar. So science, social studies, writing. It shows what we had the previous years and where we're at now. There's our quality of school climate and safety. This is one that I really want to focus on because I want to go back to that first slide when we talked about continuing the climb. This is over time. This is a 4-year after we returned from the pandemic. If you look at our reading score, we began in 2020, 2021 at 28.7, and we've steadily increased. And if we continue this trajectory, you can see what's going to happen. That's reading. In math, we also have done the same thing, increased over the course of a few years by 13 points, and you can see what's happening there. Same for science. There were some changes with the social studies, with the curriculum we were using, with the amount of time that we're putting into it. The tests changed, the standards changed during that time period. So we're getting a handle on that, and Ms. Isaacs will talk about that in a bit. And then our writing status, as you can see, we've doubled and maintained. So when I talk about continuing the climb, and I say that just as a kind of like a sticking point for what we're doing, and with the staff, data shows that's what we're doing. Okay. If you look at our novice, apprentice, proficient, distinguished, we're focusing on reducing novice and increasing our proficient, distinguished. Ms. Isaacs will speak about that next. So Ms. Isaacs is our instructional coach. We talk about what the vision looks like, and then we talk about what strategies we're going to use, and she really nails down the specifics about what's happening, and then she goes in and helps break that down into smaller parts. And I do also, Keith, if you'll go back just a moment, a couple of slides, go back one more. The quality school climate and safety. I want to give my guidance counselor a shout out. Ms. Caitlin Johnson works so hard on making sure that our students feel belonging, and they have a positive childhood experiences at school. And she gives me monthly data reports. She keeps track of what she does. And just in the month of October, we were in school for 17 days. We were out for a week of fall break. In that 17 days, she saw kids one-on-one on 72 different occasions. Now, if you divide that up, 17, and she's seen 72 different kids over different issues, she's seeing 3, 4, 5 kids a day. And that doesn't count just the interactions in the hallway and the pep talks and check-ins and things like that. So we do have a really strong administrative and support staff at our school, strong teachers and students who are excited to be there and willing to learn. So I'd like Ms. Isaacs to talk about the novice reduction that we've been doing. And so she can take over.
Good evening. Like he said, my name is Nicole Isaacs, and I'm an instructional coach. Keith, if you'll move to the next one. So some of our focus is this red line indicates the percentage of students that are scoring on novice, and it begins in 2020 and goes to 2024. The blue line is the percentage of students that are performing at proficient and distinguished. If you can see, we have decreased our novice and we have increased our percentage of students that are proficient and distinguished. When Mr. Abbott and I came back from COVID, one of the big things we focused on is novice reduction and accelerated learning. Ms. Hart talked at the beginning of the school year about one teacher that is ineffective can have an impact for 3 years. Well, we're looking at COVID that lasted almost 3 years. So that's 3 years of ineffective instruction. They weren't person to person. And so we are trying to recover from that. And so that is praiseworthy to see that novice number go down and that proficient and distinguished number go up. On math, similar, if you go so what we're doing with reading that it's working, and I'll come back to our math. So some things that we've implemented school-wide is secret stories. And we have 2 teachers in our building that went out of their way, went to West Virginia, and they took this training, paid on their own accord. But what Secret Stories does is it teaches the rules for words. So like I before E, except after C, you know, those rules that we used to learn back in school. Well, this takes our kids from learning and memorizing sight words. It actually teaches our kids the rules of how those letters go together. So that way, when a kid looks at a word, they don't have to have it memorized. They actually know the rule behind it, and they can explain to you why the word goes that way. My own child was one of the first in kindergarten, and now she's a 2nd grader, and there isn't a word that you can't put in front of her that she can't decode because of the secret stories, because she knows when C and H together, they say shh. When T and H go together, they stick out their tongue and they say. But she also knows that sometimes those letters don't follow the same rule, and she knows that alternate rule. And the other students know that as well, and it is making an impact on our students' ability to decode and read fluently. We're also using Orton Gillingham in the past, and that also helps with phonics and decoding. It is a research-based multi-sensory system that is meant for students with dyslexia. We use it for all of our students, but if you know the rate and the research behind dyslexia, 1 in 8 students dyslexia tendencies. So it is kinesthetic. It has them moving around. It has them sounding out. It has them using words and sounds. And so they're getting all different types of learning when they go through using OG. Teachers most recently have begun using UFly, which is similar to Orton Gillingham as well. It's a little bit more simplified, and so our teachers tend to lend itself to instruction, and we use OG for more of those kids that need more intensive supports. And then last, we were using Fontes and Pinnell up to this point, and that helped us with our reading levels. So we could actually meet the students at their actual reading level ability. Not, yes, they're a 3rd grader, but some of our kids aren't reading at 3rd grade when they're in 3rd grade. So F&P helped us assess where the kids were and helped support them at the level that they were actually reading at. Here is our math. Super impressive, and our math folks, I am so proud of them because I know some of you all see the math and you're like, I just don't know how this new math works. Well, our teachers busted to teach our kids why math works the way that it does. We were able to reduce our novice to 33% and increase our proficiency to 34%. So what are some things that we've done to get to this point? I think the biggest contributor was our partnership with Kentucky Center of Mathematics, or KCM. They work so well with joining and collaborating with our teachers and working on projects that it pushed our kids beyond a simple recall and regurgitation of a math problem. They actually understand what that math problem means, what the numbers mean, the quantity, and so they're able to do that. We also previously had a very well-trained math interventionist, and she kind of was a dual purpose. She helped me and helped with the math coaching, and she kind of pushed that vertical alignment within our building and helped support me with that. Unfortunately, due to funding, we've lost that, and so I hope that doesn't impact any future current trends that we have in our building. But she is still serving as a classroom teacher, and she is really supporting our 3rd grade students. And so while it's a loss on the intervention part, it is a win for that group of kids, and she is working really hard. And she actually is also working with KCM, and she is partnering with building some of those projects that KCM is helping with the numeracy legislation that our state is passed. All right, so our science, again, like Mr. Abbott spoke earlier, sometimes there are sacrifices that have to be made. And going from the amount of time they were given to 90 minutes reading and math, it did cause us to have to shorten our science. But with the shortened time, we still saw an increase in our proficient and distinguished scores up to 34. Our science teacher is working really hard. She is front-loading kids at the beginning. Like basically the first week, she's already teaching the kids how to respond to CERs, which is their written responses. She's also working on presenting the students information in the clusters that they would see on KSA. So making it very very much resemble what they would see in that testing platform. We also see some more positive science instruction being used K through 5. And so that's great, and that is due to the Ministry of Science, and so I appreciate the school district paying for that. Our teachers love that, our kids love it, and so we hope that is something that can continue. All right, again, social studies. I'm just gonna say that test is a beast, and as an adult looking at it, it is a beast, because our students are required to look at something, look at several sources and toggle through that. Take all of that information and basically explain why that information is relevant. And for a 5th grader, while they are the top students in our building, that is still a struggle, and that is a skill that they have to acquire. And so I think our social studies teacher in the past has done a great job. She's presented it using Edulastic in a platform so that our kids can see how that works, so they can look at multiple sources of information and try to describe why that information is relevant and why it has a historical impact on us and our current trends in social studies. All right, like Mr. Abbott spoke about our writing. We were able to maintain that writing, which is fantastic. We were a little concerned because of the changes that we made to our master schedule. We went from having writing class as a standalone core class to one person taught that, and that was the only thing they taught, and they had to be an expert in that. To now, we have, this past school year, we had 3 teachers. And it was the first time that some of them had really taught that platform of writing and on demand, and they were nervous. They did fantastic about doing what they did. Not only did they maintain that on-demand score, but they also increased the second part of the combined writing score, which was their editing and mechanics. So that's grammar and sentence structure and things like that. And the teachers did fantastic on teaching those language mechanics skills to our kids. So we increased that part of our combined writing score as well. All right, so just like Mr. Davis talked about big rocks, what are our next steps? Next steps for us, one of the first things we went ahead and implemented is I went to a training for thinking maps that we had here, and it was one of those things like I was like, okay, this is it. This is our jam. This is going to be fantastic for our kids. So I actually went through the 3-day training with other instructional coaches, but then I was so invested in it, I went ahead and I did a train the trainer session myself, and I went and took the course so that I could train people in the building. Because if you think about thinking maps, there are 8 thinking maps that we focus on, and this is graphic organizers. This is what you would have used when you were in school, but it gives it a common language, and it gives the students the opportunity to take what's in their head and think it out. And so one of the first statements that she made is, when we see the word elephant, we don't picture the word spelled out elephant, we picture an actual elephant. Kids are visual processors, they're not word processors. So the thinking maps are helping our kids get to that point of where they can take that information that's in written form, process it, and put it down into a visual and help them understand the information and the content. Teachers they're on their 8th thinking map in school. We've been rolling it out through PLCs, and I'm hearing lots of positive feedback. I'm seeing students do thinking maps just for fun, and it's not my own kids. It's kids just are asking about doing thinking maps, and they're excited about it. And we're seeing very positive results. It is helping our students who, like Mr. Davis mentioned earlier, some of our SPED students who don't always get that information, but it's also helping scaffold the information so that our gifted students can also continue to grow and be pushed. And so it's just a really great thing, and it develops a common language. Secondary academic indicators, again, thinking maps has kind of come into play there. My 5th grade teachers are doing a fantastic job. They've actually taken thinking maps and want 2 different types of those thinking maps, and they've taught the kids how to use that to support their writing. On the breakdown of on demand, they are scored in 5 different domains: clarity, language conventions, organization, sourcing, and support. Our 2 lowest areas were sourcing and support. The thinking map eliminated that. The kids are able to read a passage, pull out relevant information, and they're able to support their writing using the thinking maps. It also is going to help support their clarity and their organization of their writing, because it puts each specific paragraph and they're writing it, they're using their reasons and supporting reasons, and they're putting that in paragraph form. So it's already organized for them. So there's little effort on their part once they get that thinking map. They're just basically taking that information and writing it in their piece. We also are using a K through 5 graphic organizer for constructive responses and extended responses. When on KSA, those are worth 2 points, 4 points. They're more than multiple choice. So Mr. Abbott's sports analogy is let's get more points on the board. All right. So let's focus on that writing that's going to provide better information for us. The graphic organizer, we're starting in kindergarten and we've built it into 4th grade. 5th grade, they're going to continue to use what they've already been trained in. We're seeing positive results because it's a systematic writing. Those students can be proficient writers with a system in place. We are vertically aligned, and so when we have staff work days, our math folks and our reading folks are getting together and we're talking about what the expectations are before and after each grade level. And my staff are fantastic and they will hold you accountable. So if you're not cutting it and you're not doing your part, they're going to call you on it. They're not going to be unprofessional, but they're going to say, hey, you didn't do yours, so now I'm having to do this. And it really causes us to have an all-star team because we're all driven because none of us want to be called out. We all want to be the star player. Our social studies teachers work very well together in co-planning and co-teaching. We have a phenomenal special ed teacher who works with both of our 5th grade teachers, but they work together to plan, and they've collaborated several times in some of their lessons that they've taught together. And then last, for our secondary academic indicators is our phenomenon-based inquiry science instruction and reinforced with informational text. So earlier I mentioned how mystery science has been a great support and our teachers love it, but we are doing better about including those content-related texts in our reading classes. So our kids are reading about the contents, they're hearing the vocabulary, and they're being exposed to that, which is very important. And lastly is our data-driven instruction. One of Mr. Abbott's mottos that we had a few years ago was to recalibrate and recalculate. And I use that often when I talk with my teachers. When we bring in formative assessments, when you teach a standard, that is your road trip. Your formative assessments are your road map. And so that is when you pull over and you check, how am I doing on my trip? Do I need to change directions or am I on the right path? And so I tell my teachers, let's look at our formative assessment data. Let's see if we need to recalibrate and recalculate our journey on this standard. We are also using our iReady data, which is fantastic. We get to take that 3 times a year, and it's a predictor of how our students are going to do on KSA. Recently, we had someone with iReady come and train our teachers on how to use an additional tool that we weren't even aware that we had access to. And so our kid, one of my teachers, like, this is the bomb. This is fantastic because it is a scaffolding that's already built in. So what we're doing is we look at how kids performed on iReady. This scaffolding piece helps us figure out which gap instruction needs to be covered with students or prerequisites. We can't just say, we can't assume that the kid knows how to do something. So we have to make sure that they understand. So we teach those underlying skills, and then we're also teaching on grade level skills. And so that is a process to accelerate that learning, bridge the gap between their gap instruction and their on level instruction. And so kind of our motto is go slow to go fast. And so we are going a little slow on instruction, but it's causing our students to go fast and make those improvements and gains in their understanding of content.
Great job.
All right. Do you all have any questions for either of us?
Explained it very well.
Thank you.
Good job.
Thank you. And we'll continue with Ms. Andrea Goldsmith from Highland.
Okay, so I'm Andrea Goldsmith. I'm the principal of Highland, for those of you who don't know me, and this is Miss Jocelyn Flynn, the school counselor. So we will be presenting the KSA data from the 23-24 school year at Highland Elementary. So Highland's overall score was a 65.4. This chart breaks down the indicator weights, so you'll see that reading and math made up 51% of the overall score. Science, social studies, and combined writing was 40%. Our quality of school climate and safety was 4%. And our population and EL and our EL subgroup was too small to be calculated, so it was distributed proportionally in other indicators. So in reading and math, our status for the 23-24 school year was a 60.8 with a positive change of 4.2, making our overall indicator rating a 65 in that area. Science, social studies, and combined writing was a 62.3 with a positive change of 2.4. So that made our overall indicator in that area 64.7. Our quality of school climate and safety survey was a 75.5 with a positive change of 2.5, making our indicator rate a 78. So I'm pleased to say that we grew in all areas. So again, this is just a graph that shows where we stood in the 22-23 school year, 23-24, and with our 4.2 positive change, our overall indicator was a 65. Next is the science, social studies, and combined writing. So again, 59.9 with a 2.4 change and the 62.3, our overall indicator was a 64.7. This graph shows a comparison of the percentage of students scoring proficient and distinguished in all content areas over the past several years. We'll look more into those areas as we progress. So in reading, 22% of our students scored novice, 40% were apprentice, 28% were proficient, and 10% were distinguished. So you can see at one point, our students that scored novice once outweighed those that were scoring proficient and distinguished. So we've made great improvements over the past several years. So this is math. 18% of students scored novice, 44% apprentice, 34% proficient, and 3% of students were distinguished. So again, this is very similar to the reading. In the 2020-21 school year, our students that scored novice outweighed the students that were scoring proficient and distinguished, but we've continued to make progress throughout the past several years. So in science, and I apologize, our graph did not populate correctly. So we have pulled this from our PAN system. So 10% of students were novice, 52% apprentice, 38% proficient, and we had 0 students that scored distinguished. Social studies, 23% novice, 54% apprentice, 14% proficient, and 9% were distinguished. You can see there that currently, again, 23% of students are proficient and distinguished, while 23% of students were novice. Here, this didn't populate correctly either, but 41% of our students last year scored proficient and distinguished in editing and mechanics. And then on demand, we had 50% of students score proficient and distinguished. So these are our next steps. So we have implemented the Into Reading Curriculum K-5, implemented UFly for Tier 1 and Tier 2 instruction. We've seen lots of growth due to UFly. We've implemented Illustrative Math K-5. We have a brand new master schedule that's supporting co-teaching. Previously, our special ed teachers were kind of here, there, and everywhere, so we have assigned each special ed teacher to 2 grade levels, and that's really helped them kind of hone those students in those grade levels and provide supports where needed. And it's been great to plan with teachers that are in the gen ed role. We just recently had a vertical alignment day where we looked at the progression of reading in our building and the resources that each teacher is using and how they're structuring the reading block. We plan to do the same for science and social studies in November. We realize that we have a lot of students in those areas that are scoring apprentice, and we want to move them to that proficient and distinguished performance level. Continuation of MTSS and RTI meetings. So we are looking to see if students are making progress, and if not, then if it's broke, we're fixing it. So we're going to tweak the interventions. Before and after each iReady, we're going to be doing data chats and setting goals with teachers and students. We are doing ongoing walkthroughs and coaching cycles. I want to take a second to brag on Miss McKnight. She is in classrooms every single day and she does a phenomenal job. Small group instruction has been a main focus in all areas to differentiate the instruction to meet the needs of all learners. We plan to vertically align writing expectations. While 50% of students did score proficient and distinguished, we know that that's an area that we can continue to grow in. And then our family engagement has been a huge emphasis this year. So we just started a new PTO during our open house. We had a family volunteer night. We've had science and math family nights, fall festival recently. So we're looking for ways that we can strengthen the the communication and getting parents involved in their child's education. So at this time, I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Flynn so she can talk about the quality of school climate and safety survey.
Thank you, Ms. Goldsmith. So these are the results of our quality of school climate and safety survey from the KSA. As you can see, the first graph is 73. Those are the results from the 22-23 school year. And we were pleased to see that in the 23-24 school year, the results went up to a 75.5. And so when you add that 2.5 increase, our overall total was a 78, which we were glad to see. So we'd like to increase that even more, and this is where our next steps come in. So we have implemented a brand new positive behavioral intervention and support plan into our school, and it has multiple facets that we're excited and working very hard to implement. First, we combined a team of teachers and staff to create our new SOAR expectations, which you can see in the middle of the screen in our highlight colors, so that from the library to the lunchroom, our children know what positive behavior looks like in our school, what to do in the restroom, what to do in the library, what to do in the lunchroom, what to do in the classroom, what to do in the hallway. And as you can see, show a positive attitude, own your actions, always do your best, and respect. And so what happens when they're found doing those positive behaviors on the SOAR behavior matrix? They earn positive dojo points. Well, the positive dojo points, that's a system that we already had in-house in the school. So they're being rewarded with the positive dojo points from showing expectations that they're expected to do behaviors. And so we took that one more level up. Dojo comes from karate. So we decided that we were going to create dojo houses and create a whole karate theme. So we had a big assembly. We brought a whole karate school in to teach some karate moves. We got our students involved, and we initiated our students into dojo houses, much like a fraternity what you might see in Harry Potter. And so we have from 10 to 12 students. They're led by various staff members, and they're meeting once a month with their dojo houses. And what did they do once they get there? They receive a character lesson, the 6 pillars of character education. After their character lesson, they meet with their dojo leader, and they talk about what positive dojo points did you earn this month. Some students are earning a lot, some there's some room for growth. And when they earn individual dojo points, their team, their dojo house, gets all those dojo points. And as a team, they're competing to win the most dojo points that month. And this past month, we had 2 winners because so many teams did so well. We had 2 winners, and they got a donut and ice cream party. And the kids and the staff have really, really given positive reviews of this plan. We've seen behaviors, really positive behaviors increase, and the staff have really enjoyed it. In addition to the character lesson and talking about positive dojo points, we're doing a team building exercise during our meeting. And this past month, they built scarecrows, which you can see at the bottom of the screen, which are cute and are decorating our school for fall. And what we're hoping is, because these houses are for students from kindergarten through 5th grade, that we're going to see some mentoring for the 5th graders for our younger students. And we've been seeing that happening. We didn't think that was enough. We thought, you know what, we got to do one more thing. So we want to increase our academics. And so in addition, just like going with the karate theme, our students can earn karate belts. So you can see on the top right hand of the screen, as our students pass math and reading I-ready lessons, they can earn dojo points, or dojo belts or karate belts. And this past month, we had many white belts, which means they passed 25 lessons. And we even had one student who earned an orange belt, which means they had already passed 75 math and reading I-ready lessons, and he was really proud. And there were a lot of envious students, and so we look forward to the next dojo house meeting because we think we're going to see a lot more I-ready lessons passed from this competition. So we look forward to how this is going to increase our climate and culture of our school, and we've already seen really, really positive results from it. In addition, we're having positive office referrals, just to tie it all up with the bow. So we can't wait to see what our KSA results for our climate and safety are next year, because we really think this is going to have a positive impact.
Questions?
I think it's wonderful.
Yes, I
Mrs. Goldsmith, Mrs. Flynn, thank you all so much. So appreciative. Now we'll go with Houstonville, Mr. David Lester.
Thank you all. Two good presentations to follow. So we've got an opening slide here, kind of like Justin said, kind of what it's all about. We've got some pictures of our students up there, some of our amazing staff, till community members and people every chance I get that I've got a great staff over there, and I just kind of get them what they need and try to stay out of their way. So and some of that data, I will speak to some of that. So overall score this year was a 78.4. We were able to maintain green, and some of the other presentations talked about, we like to focus on the growth. So we did show growth in lots of areas. We'll dive a little bit deeper into that. Our reading and math was at an 83.4, which was an increase of 4.4 from last year. Our science, social studies, and writing, an increase of 2. And then our quality of school climate and safety was a slight decrease of 0.5 point. I think that falls into the maintaining category. It was a bit of a dip. So we'll look at some of the plans that we have to address that. Our similar situation, like Justin said a second ago, some of these graphs I feel like are a little bit redundant, show some of the same data in different ways. So our reading and math, you can see those first couple of bars there showing some growth, same thing in the middle, and then the survey, just a slight dip on a little bit closer look at reading and math stats, a 74.6 last year, went up to a 79, and then that got us an indicator of 83.4. Science, social studies, and writing were at 68.2 last year, increase of 2 up to 70.2, which got us an indicator of 72.2. There was a little dip in the survey. I've got some of the data that we'll look at a little bit later, but it falls into the status of maintained as far as the state level goes. So a little slight dip there, but nothing to get too excited about. Like they said a second ago, similar graph to what you saw in the other schools. Obviously, you want to see some steady growth there, starting out, in the 2021 kind of post-COVID world. We have shown some steady growth, especially in our reading and math. We've had a focus there over the last several years. It just, we're trying to be very intentional about not interrupting those class times, not pulling kids out of reading and math. We've got some awesome teachers in those contents. We've got lots of resources. We do focus on iReady. We look at our 50th percentile. We found that if they're 50th percentile or above on iReady, that's a pretty good indicator they'll be proficient when it comes to KSA time. So Jennifer Smith, our instructional coach, does a great job kind of comparing that data, and it usually turns out to be pretty close to that. You can see our science and social studies. I've used the word stagnant over the last couple of weeks when I look at some of this data, and I think that comes from a lot of different places. I think whenever you have such a focus on reading and math, sometimes you have to pull back from science and social studies sometimes. So we've got some plans to address some of that stuff. I think one thing that also comes into play there is when you think about your reading and math scores, that covers 3 grade levels, 3rd, 4th, and 5th. So there are more students taking those tests, and it gives you a little bit of leeway when it comes to the variation in those. When you look at science, social studies, and writing, you've only got 1 grade level that kind of carries that weight. So you can have some really good writing groups come through, or some really, excited science students that come through, and that can kind of throw some of that data off from year to year as well. Our reading percent when it comes to novice, apprentice, proficient, distinguished. Obviously, what we want to see here is a trend to the right. We've always thought if you've got more distinguished students to offset those novice kids, that's going to get you where you need to be, and then more proficient than apprentice. And kind of the way those indexes are calculated, you guys may know this already. You get basically 0 points for novice when it comes to that index number. You get 0.5 point for every apprentice kid. You get 1 point for every proficient kid. And then you get 1.25 points for every distinguished kid. So if you can get that distinguished number up, that's a big bang for the buck, because you're getting 1.5 or 1.25 for each of those kids that fall into that category. So if you can have enough distinguished to offset that novice, that can make a really big difference. And we have that in reading. Also had that in math. Okay, you got your trend data here. So like some of the other ones said before, you want to see that blue line going up and that red line going down. That's what we're able to do in reading. You can see that, and then I guess next will be your math data. Similar there, have enough distinguished to outweigh the novice, and then trending to the right on that bar graph, and then the next line graph will show some of that growth as well. So we've always been able to maintain that proficient distinguished number outweighing the novice, which kind of gets us our index where we want it to be, and we're trending in the right direction when it comes to reading and math. This graph kind of jumps off the page at you. That's one that you really notice, that 66% apprentice. And we've had a lot of conversations. So these were, these science kids, these fourth graders that are current fifth graders. We've already identified that group with the current fifth grade teachers that they've got and talked about some ways, how do you get that apprentice kid to proficient? Jennifer Smith and Ashley and I crunched some numbers on some of these, and if some of these numbers had fallen into the proficient category, and some of them were right there, some of them were just 1 or 2 questions away from doing that, I think that would have really bumped that index up even more than it was. So we have a plan to kind of address some of those apprentice kids. You can look at that a couple of different ways. A lot of those kids could have possibly been novice kids that jumped up to apprentice that outperformed what they might have in the previous years. And then you've got some at the top end of that apprentice category that we really want to focus, try to get to proficient. There you see the trend, slightly down in our science numbers. Like I said, it's not a huge decrease. It's not something that we're going to make mass changes to, but we are going to focus on one thing when it comes to our RTI kids and our EC kids. You have to find some time to pull those kids out to get some extra help in reading and math. And the easy go-to is to pull them out of science and social studies. So we're trying to be really intentional, trying not to do that. We're trying to incorporate some of that stuff into the classroom, because you take a group of fourth graders that are taking a science test. Who it was maybe Crab Orchard's presentation said that social studies test is a beast, and the science is too. And if those kids are getting pulled out for science, if I'm a second grader that gets pulled out of science and a third grader gets pulled out of science for RTI or for EC, when it comes time to take that test in fourth grade, I've missed a lot. And one of the things that we've done in some of our vertical days is looked at some of those tests, and that's not just a fourth grade science content. You got third grade science in there, you got second grade science in there. So pulling some of those kids out can have a big impact on that data as well. Social studies was similar. This was one of the areas where we didn't have enough distinguished outwear novice, which causes that index to be a little bit lower, a little bit more consistent across the board there. And then the line graph will show the same thing. Still we got proficient distinguished numbers that are outperforming the novice. The distinguished didn't get there, but still trending in the right direction for the most part. Combined writing, our number of novice kids in writing was a celebration for us. Very few novice writing kids, which is a really good indicator that those teachers have been working really hard and those students have too. We try to be consistent vertically with our writing. Even though it's the fifth graders taking those tests, they can't learn how to write in one grade level. So we're trying to be consistent. We're using our Carter County methods that we've had in the district for a while. And Jennifer Smith's a big believer in that. And if those kids are seeing some of those things as they go up, then that's going to pay off in the fifth grade. There's some of the writing numbers when it breaks it down by on-demand, editing, and mechanics, and combined writing. And the line graph to show that trend. So you can see that red novice number is very low. We want to try to keep that down there as low as we can, obviously. Some of our next steps, I broke this down by kind of category. So reading and math, we're going to continue to focus on the 50th percentile on our iReady diagnostics. We're going to support teachers with implementation of new resources. We've got the reading and math resources are there. We just got to make sure that teachers know how to use them and have the resources that they need. We're showing steady growth. We're going to keep working with high expectations, high level questioning. That's one thing we focus on with our walkthroughs is what type of questioning are we seeing? Are we seeing level 3 and 4 questioning? We're not living in a level 1 and level 2 questioning category. And we want to be intentional with standards-based instruction when it comes to reading and math. Our science, social studies, and writing, we want to ensure that those teachers also have the resources that they need. I think a lot of times there's so much focus on reading and math that sometimes those science and social studies teachers feel like, it's a little bit harder for them to get their resources. Ashley and I talk a lot when we meet with those teachers and we realize that they're having to go so many different places to get the resources. It makes us feel guilty sometimes because you've got reading and math teachers that just have, everything right there for them. And a lot of times the science and social studies teachers have to go looking for stuff a little bit more. So we want to make sure they have the resources that they need. We're looking at maybe trying to find some sort of a diagnostic to monitor that. We could go to our iReady diagnostic for reading and math and see exactly where those kids are 3 times a year. And wouldn't it be nice to be able to do that with science and social studies as well? Be strategic about our pullout for RTI and EC. Make sure they're not missing any instruction if it's at all possible. Continue to vertically align. We have some of the same release days that Andrew was talking about at Highland. We've been doing that for a couple of years, and we want to make sure we continue to get those teachers together to align vertically. Adjust the master schedule as needed. Always flexible with doing that. I mentioned the Carter County, and then we're doing the writing benchmarks 3 times a year. Our survey, we will look closely at those questions we scored lowest on. I had those questions and they talked about students being mean or hurtful to other students. Some were some of the lowest ones. But then one of the highest ones said that we're taught ways to stop people who are being mean or hurtful. So also some of the highest ones was, our highest scoring question was, there's someone in the building who cares about me. Our counselor does a great job. We've got a 2x10 program where we adopt students and we meet with them, 10 minutes a week or a couple of times a week, to where we're connecting with those kids and making sure that they have someone that they connect to. And we want to continue to build relationships with all students. So I think that's the foundational, what you got to have before you can get anywhere else. And our 24-25 goal is just to be blue. I think that a year ago we were at 71-1, and I think blue seemed like it was a big jump for us. I think that starts at like 84. So going from last year where we started at 71-1 to blue this year would have been a great big jump. But being where we are now, I think it's within reach. We're about 6 points away from that. And I think we continue reading and math what we're doing, improve some of the science and social studies and writing that we've done. And I think blue is absolutely attainable for us moving into next year. So that's the plan. Any questions for me?
Anybody? Thank you, Mr. Lake. And we'll go on with 3C, Early Childhood Fall Assessment Report. Kim Carrier.
So you all have a copy of the full report. I'm just going to go over the condensed, but in the full report, you have those subgroups and the breakdown for classroom and all of that information that's behind the condensed version there. So we're right now we currently have just a little bit of data from this year on our teaching strategies goal, which is our online, or not our online, our assessment, or ongoing assessment. And then we're going to go over our attendance currently. So like I said, our ongoing assessment, it looks at cognitive, social, emotional, physical, language development, literacy, math, science, and social studies. So for our Head Start preschool classroom, you can see over there on the side, our social emotional is 70.25%, physical is 82.28%, language is 75%, cognitive is 72%, literacy is 60%, and mathematics is 56%. So you can see that mathematics is our weakest area, and our physical or motor is our strength. Some of the things that we're doing right now is we're coaching and mentoring our teachers to kind of help build up that literacy and mathematics. That's an area that we had concerns with last year as well. So we've also adopted Letterland throughout the program. We did some training at the beginning of the year to try to increase some of our literacy scores. And then for our early program, we have social emotional is 58%, physical is 87%, language is 74%, cognitive is 87%, literacy is 64%, and mathematics is 74%. So in this area, our weakest area is that social emotional at 58%, which is also the same as last year. It was an area of concern as well. Some of the things that we've implemented this year would be our PBIS training for infants and toddler classrooms, as well as our ALS PALS curriculum, which is our social emotional curriculum that would be taking the place of second steps for some of our older classrooms. It is also developed by the same that does the TSG. So it kind of correlates with those areas as well. So those are some things that we try to do to focus on those areas of weakness. For GANS, that is our screener that we use. We use it from birth through 5 years old. It is to help determine if we have our kindergarten readiness. You're okay. So as a program, we are at 68% of students who are on or exceeding developmentally appropriate skills based on our GANS screener. You can see that 10% of our students are on or above, 57% are within their normal limits, and we have 32% that are below that cutoff that we're looking at for interventions or anything that could be hindering that growth that we're wanting to see. So. And then our attendance so far this year is 88.46%, and our goal is 90, so we're not there yet, but all of this is very early on, I feel like, in the year. You know, our next steps are we're going to continue to collect our data. This is just a couple of data points that we have so far. So we will be doing our winter data points, so we will have more information with some observations with Teapot in class. We'll have Eckers and Itters, and we'll be able to analyze that data, determine, our next steps for the remainder of the year. Any questions?
Good report. To the point. Ms. Kim, I did want to make a comment. I'm glad we still have Letterland. Love it. Okay, we will continue with item 4, discussion items. 4A, KETS offer of assistance. Leanne Smith.
Thank you all. So our CATS money is something you all hear me talk about occasionally, and CATS stands for Kentucky Education Technology System. And what CATS does is it tries to enable that there's consistency in technology in all school districts across Kentucky. So we receive what they call offers of assistance each year, and of course we accept those. Basically, they say, we'll give you some money, you all match that money, and then you can use it toward your technology needs. And so we've received our first offer in this school year for $32,771. And typically what we've done since I've started here, we can go ahead and accept that offer and match it and receive those funds. But we don't typically have an immediate need for that. So what we do is escrow it for 3 years. And so in 3 years, actually, they will send us this money and we have to move money from our general fund to match it. So that money keeps our technology, up to date, allows us to purchase Chromebooks and, do all kinds of things with infrastructure. So it's really important money that we get. So I'll just be asking the board to approve this first offer of assistance. We typically receive 3 in a school year, and then we'll escrow it at this time for 3 years. And then in 3 years, we'll be seeing that money. But between now and 3 years, we'll be receiving the money that we escrowed, 3 years ago. So we're always receiving money. We just know that we're holding out, we'll have this money coming to us in the future. So
That sounds excellent. To match it every 3 years.
Yep. So that's what I'll be asking you all to do, is just to approve that escrowing.
Any comments? Anyone?
Glad to get the money.
Absolutely.
Okay, Leanne, we'll go on with 4B, revised policy 04.32, model procurement code of purchasing. And this is the first reading of this policy.
Yes. So I actually participated in a virtual training with KDE over procurement, something I needed a little bit of brushing up on, just to make sure we're doing everything here as we should. And after it was over, I had a few questions, so I followed up with the presenter. And in doing that, he asked to review our policy. And he just made a few suggestions of some cleanup that we should do. It's nothing big. On page 3, there's a paragraph that was titled emergency, which really didn't make any sense. It said if there was an emergency, the superintendent can use money up to $40,000 without board approval. But at any given time, we can spend up to $40,000 without board approval. So that was just kind of a redundancy. And he just said, let's go ahead and mark that out because that's not needed. It doesn't really make sense. There's another place on down there. It says that if there's a project, it says in excess of 40,000, and then right after that it says, but not more than $40,000 total. That just contradicts itself. So he just glanced and said, strike that out because it doesn't make any sense. But beyond that, he said, hey, you have a great looking policy. It looks good. He just said, I would clean that up while you're looking at it and we see those things just so it doesn't create any confusion going forward. So this will be our first reading. We'll have our second reading next week. There's also a procedure that he recommended that we make some changes to, but I'll have that next week because we just have to do the one time on it. But it's similar. It's just crossing out a few things that don't really apply anymore. So just a little cleanup.
Comments, questions? Thank you, Leanne. Okay, 4C, revised policy 09.2, student welfare and wellness. And this is the first reading of this policy. Kathy H.
Yes, I attended a training with KDE, so we just need to change a little bit of our wording. And before it says suggested language, and we're changing it to the district as a whole. And that's it. This is for our review. It's all part of our review for this coming year.
That's the only training.
Well, we do have some procedures, and we have Mr. Wheeler that's gonna sit in on, a meeting with us, and Mr. Krager, and we have some procedures we have to change. So we will be bringing those to the board too. Any questions? Appreciate it.
Thank you, Kathy. 4D, bids for vehicles declared a surplus. And Brad Smith could not be with us, so Leanne Smith is here.
Cover for him, I guess. So if you'll remember, we surplus several vehicles and we did advertise for bids, and we opened those bids on, October the 28th. So I did provide y'all with a list of those bids received. And the recommendation is, of course, to take the high bid on each one of those. So I'll just read through those high bids. On the 2006 Ford Freestar van, the high bid was from Ray Middleton for $175. On the 2008 Jeep Commander, Ray Middleton, $775. On the 2005 Ford F-350, Ray Middleton, $675. The 1996 Chevy $3,500 with snowplow was Ray Middleton, $765. The 1998 Chevy Kodiak box truck, Ray Middleton, $1,550. The 2005 Chevy 2500 was Ray Middleton for $645, and we did not receive any bids on the salt spreader. So, and we did receive more bids besides from Mr. Middleton, but he was the high bid on every one of them. So, I'll be asking you all to approve those next week.
Can we rebid these and maybe $175? Can we get more than that for it at the scrapyard?
I don't know. I would assume if that was the case that Mr. Krager probably would have recommended that. If you want me to revisit that issue with him.
Maybe anything under a $700 bid and add the salt spreader back on there?
You just want to re-advertise for bids on it, or what do you want to do?
Well, I'm okay with anything that's over $700. I don't know how anybody else feels about it.
Okay.
I don't know if we can bust it up and do that, or and my thought process, and Mr. Krager may know this for sure, but $175 for a 2006 Ford Freestar van, would we get more money at the scrapyard?
Okay, that's information I just really don't know. I'll find out between now and next week and let you all know. Like I said, I would assume if that was the way to go, that would be what he would recommend, but I will double check on that.
Okay, I appreciate it.
And if we want to re-advertise for bids on the salt spreader, we can definitely do that. So next week, if you guys want to vote to accept more bids on the salt spreader, then we can do that.
I just have ask Grant, I think you would have, since these have been advertised, then you would have to reject like the certain ones
Yeah.
that you might not want to accept.
But we could do that on a
Yes,
vehicle by
right.
vehicle basis. So if we wanted to accept some of the bids and reject some of them, but I'll find that information out. That's a good question.
And then I've also heard some comments that we don't do real good advertising when we have stuff up for bid.
Oh,
I mean,
okay.
that's not you.
Yeah.
That's
Well, we just, on my part, we just follow the requirements, and it's in the
newspaper that nobody
newspaper.
buys.
Yeah.
That's not out there nowhere.
Yeah, okay.
Most of the requirements are your local paper.
Local paper.
Yeah.
Yep.
But if we want money for it, it needs to be on our Facebook page.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Leanne. Okay, 4E, amended guidelines for Lincoln County early childhood. Kim Carrier. Welcome back.
Round two of our amended guidelines. So we are looking at our enrollment eligibility and selection guidelines based on those revisions from our Head Start performance standards that happened in August. You have a copy of them in front of you. It's very similar to the previous ones. We're looking at where the poverty guidelines have changed some of that information, where we had that 30% adjustment, the housing cost, looking at our eligibility criteria, all of that stuff. So all of those changes just needed to be amended for our guidelines for another section. You know, I told you last time we were going to be looking at each section, so now we're at another section. So, do you all have any questions? The amendments are in red on all of those guidelines, so if you have any questions, just let me know.
Okay, Kim, continue then with 4F, early childhood program self-assessment process.
Okay. So each year we're required to do a self-assessment. So I'm seeking approval for our self-assessment plan. The self-assessment is of our program. It is an evaluation that we do each year to measure our program accomplishments, strengths, and weaknesses. All of our stakeholders are involved. That includes our teaching staff, parents, our liaison from the board, community members, policy council members, and our support staff. So they all get together and work to review and determine carrying out that process of our programmatic and fiscal intent of the grant. So, and once that data is collected, then we analyze it and look for our next steps and, how we can continue our improvement. So you have a copy of the self-assessment plan. We're required just to have that approved by the board before we go further and get started. And you'll see on there that it says that, we're seeking approval in November, December, and then in January, we'll start that selection and getting the team together. And then in February, March, we'll actually follow through with conducting that self-assessment. Any questions?
Thank you, Kim. 4G MOA with the Commonwealth of Kentucky. Julie Ball could not be with us, so Diana Hart is doing this.
Yes, so the CWTP, which is the Community Work Transition Plan, works with special ed students or students with disabilities to gain skills and resources to help them with their future. They would work alongside a employment specialist with the school, and they would be focusing on both pre-employment transition services and individualized transition services. And basically this MOA is a cooperative agreement between us, the local Board of Education, the Kentucky Department of Education, the Office of Vocational Rehabilitation, and the Human Development Institute at the University of Kentucky.
Questions, anyone?
Sounds like a great program.
Okay, Diana, go on with 4H, classified position for work transition program.
So as I mentioned, we would need a person in the school. So if we're going to do that MOA, then we have to have this position in order to implement this program. And the approximate cost is around $30,000, which would be paid for by the district with SEEK funds with reimbursement from the Commonwealth of Kentucky Education and Labor Cabinet Office of Vocational Rehabilitation.
I received questions about this today. This is like the person that takes them to their jobs,
Yes.
like we used to have.
Yes, we've had this program.
We've had this program
We wanna
before.
revive it.
We took our high schoolers to local jobs and let them work, and this person stays with, and it's high schoolers.
Correct.
That's what I said, but I told them I'd ask tonight to make positive.
That's fair.
Okay.
Which is why you need this position.
Yes, you have to, it's an awesome position.
Yeah.
I can remember when they used to do it.
Okay, Diana, go on with 4I, shortened school day week with special education students.
So this is for 5 students that we're asking for you to approve their shortened school day / week, which has already gone through their ARCs and gone through the approval process. We just need your blessing to continue that.
I'm sorry, but I have a question about this too. I was asked this past week. You have to have a doctor's statement before you have a shortened day?
You have to, so if an ARC brings that to the table, typically you have, and I can't speak on all cases because I'm not involved in these, but typically you have a statement from a medical professional that connects your disability to a reason why you would need that shortened school day or week. That answers your question.
Answered mine. I don't know the answer before I. Yeah, but they wanted it answered by you on camera.
Oh, okay.
Or Miss Bell.
Anyone? Thank you, Diana. We'll continue with our item 5 action items. 5A, Lincoln County Middle School Beta Club to Lexington for a competition, January the 15th to the 17th, 2025. Mr. Bruce Smith.
Yes, the sponsor has reached out to us just asking if they'd like to get their reservations and their planning. So asking the board to approve this trip for the Beta Club to the their competition in Lexington.
Do we know how many kids that is?
I don't, Mr. Search, do you? Oh. Do you know how
What
many
was the question?
students?
How many Beta
many
Club kids in
students?
middle school?
I don't have the answer to that.
I don't think it's on.
It's a
It's
big
a
large
number.
number.
It's a big
It
number.
says
I thought it would be
90.
large.
Number of students 90, faculty sponsored 4, other chaperones 6. Total number of participants 100. That's a lot.
Yes, that's a lot of kids.
Probably why he needs his
Lots of
reservation.
chaperones.
They like to get their, reservations and
Yeah.
registration and everything done, so.
I really like the idea of our kids participating in competitions when they are doing all they need to do, and then they're ready for these competitions. We need to support them 100%, no matter what club or what it is that's going on out there.
And it's nice when
Middle
they get
school,
to
high
go
school.
places.
Yes, yes.
Yes, I'm glad they'll experience Lexington, get out of Lincoln County for a little bit. Anything else? Okay, is there a motion to approve the Lincoln County Middle School Beta Club overnight trip to Lexington?
I make the motion.
Okay, Jen and Christine, vote Gloria,
Yes.
Jen,
Yes.
Tyler,
Yes.
Christine,
Yes.
and I vote yes. Okay, Colleen, are there any public comments? Okay.
Oh, I wanted to bring up something before we adjourn. I'd like to ask Mr. Chenoweth if he would look at our visitor policy and procedures and review that with us next week at our regular meeting. I've had some health issues this first semester, but I intend to get out there and visit the schools second semester. And I just want to make sure that I'm following the policy and the procedures, because board members are visitors in the schools and they come under the same policy as any other visitor. And so I want to make sure that when I come, I've called and made an appointment, that it's convenient for the principal and for, that I'm not interfering. And I always, when I go, I always have a purpose for being there. And it's usually just to have a walkthrough and look at the facility. I'm really committed to seeing that our facilities become first class. I've got 2 more years on the board, and I want to make sure that those are going ahead. And I want to be knowledgeable of what our facilities look like. So I just want to make sure that I'm doing the right way when I go to visit. So if he would do that next week, I would greatly appreciate it.
You made a comment, it's so important to make sure the principal knows you're coming.
Right, and what the
So,
purpose,
because you want to spend some time with him
right,
on all the facility needs.
right, right. So if you do that, I greatly appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Grant. Anything else before we adjourn? Okay, is there a motion to adjourn?
Make a motion to adjourn.
Christine?
I think Gloria got it
Okay,
before me.
Gloria, then Christine. Vote. Gloria,
Yes.
Jen,
Yes.
Tyler,
Yes.
Christine, and I vote yes.